baby. Are you saying hi to everybody? All excited? Well, good morning. I'm Martin Tyner with the Enoch Wildlife Rescue Center. And of course, we have Helen, our beautiful, beautiful Helen here. And she's all excited. It's breakfast time. And so this time in the morning, we get up and walk out and give her breakfast. And then we have Autumn, the kitty from hell, sitting about a foot away from her, trying to wonder what kind of mischief she can get into. So it's a little active this morning, but we're having fun. Well, good day, and we're going to have a little fun today. We're going to talk about kind of one of my favorite places that I spend a great deal of time at, and that's called the Paran Gap. But probably first and foremost, happy winter solstice. Winter solstice is one of my favorite days of the year. I love the winter solstice. And I don't care if it's sunny outside. I don't care if it's snowing. I don't care if it's 10 below zero. The winter solstice for me means that days are getting longer. And that means spring is around the corner. It's a new year. 2023 was kind of a rough year for us, and I had several friends pass away, and I had my heart problems, and it was a rough year for both Susan and I. But it's 2024 is right around the corner. And like I said, December 21st, that's our shortest day of the year. And so tomorrow, there'll be just a couple, 3 seconds more sunlight tomorrow than there is today. And it'll continue to get more and more to where we'll have extra minutes of sunlight, to where we'll be, hours more sunlight than we have now. And so it's something that I really love and look forward to is getting out and getting with the critters. And even though springtime is incredibly busy with the wildlife rescue, but there's just so many more things we can do. So happy winter solstice, everyone. DG, do you got a question for us?
Well, remember we had something we wanted to share.
Oh, yes. I got an email from someone yesterday and said, we just read your article that was in the St. George newspaper. And I'm going, I talked to a reporter a week or so ago, but I didn't know that there was an article printed, and there is. And so they did a nice little article on our Enoch Wildlife Rescue. She was, the reporter was wanting to do something positive and for Christmas that had to do with wildlife. And so she kind of focused the article on us and our wildlife rescue, and it was very nice. It was fun.
So, and we've got the link to that article down in the description for this Vlogmas, and a little bit after I'll get it up on our Vlogmas page too. And I made a PDF so we can have it for forever and ever. And we've also got a little bit of numbers here to talk about. As of this morning on YouTube, we have 3,118, and at the site for December has been 4,578. So now we're looking at a Vlogmas total of 7,696. So we're like way over our goal. So Martin, how are we going to give this money back?
Who said anything about giving it back? It's all going to the critters, like always. It's all going to supplying the new Enoch Wildlife Rescue Center, and with food and medical supplies, and there's a lot that we have to purchase. And so this is just tremendous news for us that everybody's been so kind and so generous, and we appreciate everybody for all that they've done. And this is like I said, we're rolling out of this year very happy and very positive. Um, Much better than we started. So thank you, everyone.
And by the way, we forgot to mention that the St. George News article that we were both really happy about who they mentioned.
Well, Findlay Subaru, of course. Is that the one you were thinking about?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, they mentioned Findlay Subaru. They're down, this particular newspaper is in St. George, and so I told them about how kind and generous Findlay Subaru has been to us, and this is our 10th year, and and all of that for the share the love, and so I was happy to see they mentioned our our partners, Findlay Subaru. So that's wonderful.
So you ready to look at your numbers on your calendar?
Yes.
Okay, this one is actually from yesterday because we got behind again, number 20. That's a topic, the Japanese student story. And I got a few pictures here we can bring up if you'd like, or
Sure. Go ahead and bring a picture, and I'll tell everybody what we're looking at. Um, Basically, I have there is a tour group that basically brings in middle school students from Japan, and I believe there's two or three different schools in Japan, and and they bring these students in, and these are about seventh graders, and so the school they'll read my book, and then they'll come to Utah and visit all the national parks, and then we'll have an opportunity to come out to the Paran Gap and visit with me, and so we just have a great deal of fun. Um, the students are just learning English, and so we have an interpreter with them, but uh, they try very very hard not to use the interpreters and to um, let the students visit with me and learn. Uh, I'll tell you, it's sad. It's sad when you get 90 to 100 seventh graders from Japan, and the only English they know is my vocabulary. And so, yeah, from my book. So, you know, it's a wonderful honor that they come out. They've been coming out for many many years, and we just have great fun with the kids, and that goes right into what we're going to be talking about today with the Paran Gap. So, what's our today's question?
all right, number 21. We have a question comment from Conan. I don't know. Okay, hello, unwavering web geek. I've been really enjoying this daily Vlogmas series. I'm sure it's a ton of work to produce, but it's great to hear all the exciting news, old stories, plans for the future, health status, etc. After listening to Martin discuss his plans for retirement over the next several years, much deserved, does he plan to continue being a licensed and practicing falconer? Will he have more time or desire to take apprentices under his wing, so to speak? Perhaps even sharing this on YouTube. Thank you to the whole Enoch Wild Rescue team. Wishing you a Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. Kind regards, Conan.
Well, thank you, Conan. I'm a little bit curious. Um, Several months ago, I got a nice email from Conan, who was the late night host on television, and he just sent me a really nice little letter, and I'm curious if this is the same person or not.
Well, it was
But
Conan O'Brien. I just figured it
it's
was. It says Conan O'Brien. I figured it was the same name type of thing. It's a fairly common name, I thought.
okay. Well, it was Conan O'Brien that sent me a nice email, and so is there any indication that this is Conan O'Brien?
Well, it is, but I don't know which one.
Okay. Well, anyway, um, welcome. And yes, I do plan to continue being a falconer and working with our animals. Um, you know, to be very, very honest with you, um, my vision of retirement truly is that they drop me in a hole 6 foot deep and throw dirt on my face. And until that point in time, I will do everything I can to be a part of the Enoch Wildlife Rescue, to be available to help take care of the critters, to provide the educational programs that I do, and so that will not ever end until my very very last breath. So and that's just kind of the way I was raised. There's an old saying that if you work at something you truly love, you'll never work a day in your life. And so that's what I've always done is follow my passions. We don't make money, but that's okay. We've made enough of a living to raise a couple of amazing kids and to keep a roof over our head. And so I consider our life to have been incredibly successful. And there was another old saying that I just love, and that is that I have something that wealthy people will never have, and that's something that I have that wealthy people will never have is enough. We're just really happy with our lives. My sweet wife, and there's there's nothing that I would have rather done with my life than what we're doing right now. And on that article from the St. George newspaper, um, they I've never had an article written that was 100% accurate, and so I was a little surprised in reading the article that they referred to my wife as my spicy wife Susan. I have no idea where they got that from. I had both Susan and I got kind of a chuckle out of, she's spicy, she's not sweet, she is. So
You know what? I just remembered there was actually another typo on that article, and they wrote the captions with a picture of Belle. It called her a Ferris hawk.
yes, they did. They
So maybe she said spicy instead of sweet.
so I've like I said, I've never had a newspaper article ever written over the last 57 years that was 100% correct. And so we do have to, forgive them a little bit, give them a little latitude, because obviously what I do is a bit different.
Yeah, well, we're just glad it's there. Whatever errors, it's now ours. So get on that.
Yes. Yeah. And that like I said, I didn't even know the article had come out. They did not notify me. They just talked to me for a little while on the phone, and then they obviously went to the website and watched a bunch of the videos and the Vlogmas and collected the rest of their information there.
It's a good title. Do good.
Yes. Yeah, I was very, very happy with that. That's my grandfather's advice. So I thought that was great. Hey, pretty girl. So, shall we get to the Paran Gap, or do we have other questions that we can answer?
Well, I think we're all clear to talk about Peregrine now. If you want
Okay.
to,
Well,
or we could just sit here and stare at Helen for like an hour or so.
yeah, she's certainly a pretty little thing, and she is very, very sweet, and we just love her to death. Oh, baby,
Oh,
you're
it
such
looks
a
like
sweet.
we do have one quick question here. M127 asks, when is the last Vlogmas of the year?
Uh, right now, I think we're planning on December 24th, the morning of December 24th, to be our last one. That way, we have Christmas and get a few other things done before the end of the year. Right now, um, I have got a stack of state and federal permits that I have to write and fill out and those kinds of things. And so usually we just kind of ignore them until the day after Christmas, and the day after Christmas, um, it's paperwork time, and we spend the next week plus just trying to make sure that every I is dotted and T is crossed for all of my permits. And so we get really busy doing that. Oh, one other thing that was I just received last night notification from the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service that they approved our little screech owl as an educational bird on my education permit. And we haven't got the state approval yet, but we do have the federal approval for our newest wildlife ambassador. So that's great news.
So does that mean we can start thinking about a name for reals yet, or should we wait for that second permit?
Well, we can certainly start thinking about a name. Um, and you know, it's just the state has a terrible time processing permits, and so we may not get the permit processed for months from the state, but as long as we've got the federal permit and we filled all the paperwork and we filled out our reports and, like I said, cross T's, dot I's, um, you know, we can start using him as a wildlife ambassador. So yes, we can start thinking of names for him. So why don't we go to the Paran Gap and show some pictures, and I'll talk about what the gap is all about. Okay, right now I'm actually walking out toward the petroglyphs. Now the Paran Gap is a gap in the rocks in the cliff, and we're heading to the first big panel of Indian petroglyphs. Now, for those of you that don't know, the Paran Gap is 15 miles north of Cedar City. You take the north off ramp of Cedar City, and you take Highway 130 for 15 or for about 13 miles, and there's the road that says Paran Gap, and you turn right, and that's what we call the zipper glyph, and that's the solar calendar. What that is the way the ancient people were able to um, find out what day it is. And so it looks like a big zipper right there. And the left side of the zipper is the mountain to the left side of us. The right side is the mountain right in front of us. And the circle at the bottom is the valley behind us. And the ancients, there would be a medicine man, a shaman that would live there, and he would watch the sunrise and sunsets, moonrise, moonsets, and he would write down what he saw on the rocks so that it would help him remember and that he could pass this information on to multiple generations. And so he would live there with a student. The student would then, when the medicine man would pass away from old age, the student would then become the shaman, and he would pick a student. And so this was done over many hundreds of years by many different people. Um, and so that's our solar calendar. And so other than what looks like a big zipper, everything else is the mathematical calculations for, again, things that they wanted to remember so that they would know at what time of the year to do what they needed to do. And so a good example of that, if you look in the center of the big zipper, you can see what looks like a stalk of corn. And the stalk of corn is sitting on a small sun. Where the sun touches the zipper glyph to the left side, that's the correct day to plant corn. And so the shaman would stand out in the valley on a stack of rocks, and we've got pictures of that as well going on. And they'd watch the sunset, and where the sunset set through the gap and touched the side of the mountain, either the right or left side. As you can see here, we have a right and left side. As the sun would set through, they'd go to the zipper glyph and they'd count the notches, and that would tell them what day it is. So it's the ancient people that lived here were incredibly intelligent. They were certainly a lot smarter than I am, and so it's really quite fascinating. Now, I am not an archaeologist. We've had several archaeology groups come in to help interpret the Paran Gap, and to be honest with you, they all come up with different answers. And so when I have my students come out here, whether it's the Japanese students or students locally or students from anywhere else in the world, I tell them the stories about the Paran Gap, and I ask them. I says, "Is everything I've told you true?" And all the kids say, "Oh yeah." And I says, "No, it's not." I says, "We were not here, 3 to 5,000 years ago when these were written, and so all we can do is look at the petroglyphs, try to identify what within the environment that it represents, and then assume that that's correct. But the truth of the matter is, with these ancient writings, we don't really know exactly what they mean." Bring up another picture. Okay, we're coming up to the placards right there. Now I'm going to walk around the corner here and go to my favorite set of petroglyphs. And what we just looked at was the sun calendar, which told them what day it is. And we're going to walk over to the moon calendar. And what we're going to go to is the lunar observatory. I'm kind of pointing at the lunar observatory. And what I'm talking about here is there is a crack in the rock, and the ancient people would stand at that crack and watch the moon rise. And now, I believe this is correct, but you guys can certainly check me on this. It's my understanding that the moon will rise as a full moon in the same exact spot in the sky every 18 years, 6 months. And so let's go ahead and keep going to the next one. And so that is what this fan-shaped object that you're looking at is all about. And the one that looks kind of like a comb with a bunch of dots. These are the mathematical calculations, from what I understand, the movement of the moon. Now, in the process of spend a lot of time out the Paran Gap. I'm out there monitoring the wildlife and visiting with the archaeologists out there. I asked them one day, I says, "Can you tell me the significance of the great horned owl in the Paran Gap?" And the archaeologist says, "Show us." So I walked him up to this wall, and this is the lunar observatory, and the fan-shaped object is the mathematical calculations for the movement of the moon. Sitting on top of the fan is a petroglyph carving of a great horned owl. And you can see it's a great horned owl. You can see it's the head. You can see the feathers on the top of the head, the beak. You can see the body, and you can see the right wing coming down, and the tail feathers are blended into the bars at the bottom as part of the calendar. And the archaeologists looked at that, and their jaws just about hit the ground because they had no idea what that was. And they says it's a great horned owl. And so they said, "Do you know what the rest of this is?" I says, "No, I have no idea what the rest of this means." And so they explained to me that it was a lunar calendar, the movement of the moon. And what better way to mark a moon calendar than the largest flying night spirit, which is the great horned owl in this area. And so the great horned owl is kind of my little discovery. It took a bird guy to figure it out. So that's my little addition to the knowledge of the Paran Gap. Why don't we go ahead to the next one? Okay, what we're looking at here, this is a naturally occurring stone sculpture of the God that created the planet. Now, this is a story that was told to me by the Paiutes, and the God that created Earth was named Tobat. And they believe that Tobat lives here at the Paran Gap. And so if you use your imagination a little bit and you look at this rock that's right in front of us, you'll see a horizontal slit. That's his mouth. And just above his mouth, you can see his nose. Below the mouth, you can see his chin. Now you can kind of see where his eye would be. And the light colored rock at the back of his head is his eagle feather. And so that's a naturally occurring stone sculpture of the creator of Earth, Tobat. And so to the ancient people, this is considered one of the most sacred places on the planet. And it goes the same for our native people here as well. And the vast majority of them are Paiutes, but we have Paiutes and Navajos and Hopis, and we have Utes and several other tribal groups here in the area, but the Paiutes are the ones that are the most local. Now, this is the house that the shaman lived in. It's a cave. It's a really nice cave, and you can go up to the fence here and you can look inside the cave and you can see black soot from his fires still there on the walls and the ceiling. And so this is where the shaman would live. He'd live here with his students. And what was really fascinating to me is that Tobat's head is right above this cave. And so to the ancient people that lived here, if you were ever invited into this cave, this home of the medicine man, the shaman, you were physically walking into the heart of God. And so this is a very sacred place. And it's amazing. That's Tobat again. And when the shaman would start his fire, smoke would rise up and go through a crack. And that crack, the smoke would go out above Tobat's head. And so the smoke would billow out above Tobat. Now, right there where the road is, that used to be a stream, a really nice stream. It was fed in from the mountains of Peregrine to the east. There were turtles, there were fish. This is a beautiful place to live. When the Mormon pioneers came into southern Utah, they diverted all the water in the Peregrine Valley for agriculture, and this all dried up. And then when I moved here 45 years ago, this was pretty much forgotten. There was a livestock trail. The farmers would run their livestock through the valley here, mostly sheep. And so nobody came out here. It was my place. I would fly my birds and let them hunt the rabbits, and it was peaceful and beautiful, and I had it all to myself. But now with the road that goes through, and they have a restroom, and they have a pavilion, and they have signs and everything else. This is become quite the tourist area for people that want to see the petroglyphs and learn about the Paran Gap, which is wonderful, but I miss my solitude. Okay, this is actually the problem with people coming to the Paran Gap. Is a little hard to see here, but people have taken out their pocket knives and carved names and graffiti and stuff on these rocks. And I tell the students that come to the Paran Gap, I says this may not be my belief system, and it may not be your belief system, but it is someone's belief system. And how would your parents feel if you went into a church, a synagogue, a temple, whatever religious affiliation you have, and take out their pocket knife and carve their names and words in the walls of the church? And all the kid says, well, my parents would be really upset. And I says, that's kind of the point. This is a sacred religious site for the native peoples, and to desecrate it like that is just incredibly disrespectful. And so we try to educate the children Now, what we're looking at here is we're looking at out to the north side of the Paran Gap, and this is kind of important. People don't realize, even though the petroglyphs are there are petroglyphs across the canyon, there are petroglyphs on both sides, but these petroglyphs functions on sunrise, sunset, moonrise, moonsets, lights, and shadows. And so if you climb around on these rocks up on the cliffside and you knock a rock down, the shadow that's going to be focused across the valley from the sunrise will have changed. And then we will have lost the information that was there for us. And so when you come to sites like this, be extremely careful. Um, I actually had a significant disagreement. We had a geology class from a university, I believe it was in Washington State, came to the Paran Gap to look at the really unique geological formations here, and their college kids were climbing all over these rocks, and they were taking their pick hammers and chipping off samples of the rock to take back to study, and it's like they are destroying it. And I went back and got their teacher and told them to get their kids off of this place. And they're, this is a federally protected archaeological site, and you can't do that, within a mile or more of an archaeological site like this. And it surprised me that the geology teacher had no idea that all of this stuff was ancient petroglyphs. So it's interesting how some teachers only focus on what their specialty is, in this case geology, and had no reference whatsoever to the archaeology on the site. So we got them to stop that, and I have no idea how much damage was done. So anyway, that's our little Paran Gap tour. It's very easy to find. You come up I-15 and exit 62, which is the North Cedar City off ramp, and you get off on the North Cedar City off ramp, and you will go north on Highway 130, the Minersville Highway, for about 13 miles, and then you'll see a right-hand turn. In fact, it's the only right-hand turn out there for more than 30 miles that's paved. You turn right, and you'll drive right through the Paran Gap, and there's a parking area, and so it's a wonderful place if you're on vacation to come look. We have a lot of actually even more significant petroglyph sites here in the southern Utah area than the Paran Gap, but the Paran Gap is very accessible. The other ones are, a pretty good hike and sometimes a pretty good climb to get to them. And we don't broadcast their locations because we don't want people coming there and desecrating with graffiti on these sites. And so we kind of keep them a little bit quiet throughout all of the foothills here in southern Utah. We have a lot of native burial sites, again, that we protect and that we don't tell people where they're at because we don't want people to dig. Was a big problem in eastern Utah, people finding these sites and digging up these grave sites for artifacts, pottery and baskets and those kinds of things. And so we try to keep all of these sites fairly quiet and fairly secretive. Hi, Helen. So, any questions about the Paran Gap that I can answer for you?
Well, we do have a question about Helen.
Okay.
Oops, and I just hit the wrong button. Let me see if I can find it again. Basically, someone asked about how her vision is and how you tell how it's limited.
Well, her vision's less than 6 feet ahead. And the way that we know that is I can basically set her on the ground, and I can put her breakfast 6 feet away from her. She can't find it. I can set it within 3 feet, and then she can find it. Now, she does seem to see movement a little further than that. And so we're having Autumn, our cat, has been running all over the living room here, and and Helen seems to be able to pick that up a little further than 6 feet, the movement. But if the cat is just still, I don't think she can see it. And so that is why Helen, lives here in the house and here in the living room, because we can't allow her to fly. This I've got her clipped here so she doesn't fly, because if she were to fly, even in a room as small as my living room, she'd hit the walls before she could see them, and so she would injure herself. So we have to kind of protect her a little bit, and in order to give her um, enrichment in her life, sitting on a perch here in the living room right next to the TV, where she can watch the TV, and the TV's on and she sees lights and movements and those kinds of things, and that seems to be quite entertaining to her. I wouldn't put any other bird that close to the television, because the lights and movements with good vision would drive them nuts. But with her limited vision, that seems to help her. And then she gets to hang out with us, and she really likes being a member of the family. And in fact, it's this silly cat that Susan brought home. We've had that cat, sit in my lap with Helen being held right here, and put its paws up and kind of pat at Helen, and Helen just kind of looks at it like, stupid cat. But she's so patient, and very little in the world, bothers her, and so she's just a great wildlife ambassador for our programs.
Hey, we have a comment. Elizabeth, watching from Germany. Loved your book, Martin. Helen is gorgeous. Holiday greetings to you all.
Well, thank you for, we love all of our friends, all over the world, and I've got quite a few in Germany. There's some really amazing falconers in Germany, and I would love to one day. I would personally love to go to Germany and Hungary. I would love to go to England. I would love to go to Mongolia. I'd love to go to Africa. I'd love to go to places where falconry is practiced, but it's practiced in very different ways in different parts of the country, and to be able to sit down and visit with falconers, like I said, from all over the world, and to understand their techniques and their culture. That would be awesome. But unfortunately, hi, sweetie. Unfortunately, that's probably never going to be the case. If I'm not here caring for critters, and there's nobody here caring for critters. So, Susan and I don't have vacations.
Ready to wrap up?
Yeah, I guess we probably should wrap up. Guys, thank you so very, very much from my sweet little Helen here, and we'll be back again 9 o'clock tomorrow morning for another visit. We'll talk to you soon.